So, Johannes Hahn, I would love to invite you to come up with your final remarks after having heard everything that was spelled out. And then after you finished, we will have another look at our narrative that has been playing out here. So, ladies and gentlemen, give him a big hand, the EU Commissioner for Neighbourhood Policy and Enlargement Negotiations.
Yeah, thank you very much, and also from my side, good morning to everybody. In particular, I would like to welcome Robert Bobowski, the Minister for Communication, Accountability and Transparency. Immediately I would like to use the opportunity to announce that if we are organizing this next year again, I will take the advice or the comment I have heard yesterday, also to include or to let politicians participate in our conference, or at least to have panels, because I suppose in all these countries we have ministers being in charge of communication, of the media, etc. And I think it's important to have an exchange, may I say, also with those who are in charge. And this leads me immediately, and I'm grateful that I could listen to the conclusions from all your panel discussions and your thoughts and your comments. May I say I'm a little bit scared that there is apparently the idea there is only one truth. I think we should be modest. A society, so to say, a real society consists of many, many truths. And what I don't like to see in any kind of society is a kind of truth police or taste police which finally decides who has the truth or who is, so to say, following the one and only truth, and who is, so to say, departing from the real truth. So my understanding is, I have heard a lot about independent media. That's of course important, but I would like to add pluralistic and independent media. So this is what counts, what makes a society a real society, to have a wide range of opinions. If you complain about Orban, okay, you can complain. The others complain about, as we have heard, what's the guy, Open Society founder, Mr. Soros, yeah? So there are complaints there and there. But what we should guarantee is that everybody has the opportunity in a society to raise his or her voice and to be heard. And this is what makes the European Union, for what we are working. And to be honest, I'm not naive. I'm in politics for more than 40 years. I was in charge in my previous dossier for all the European regions. I'm now in charge for the Eastern Neighbourhood, for the Southern Neighbourhood, for the enlargement candidates. I have met many, many politicians, and in a way they are all similar, and I'm one of them. But I think we have to face reality. If we try, and I try, to improve the living conditions here in the region, to make the country more ready to join the European Union, to improve the economic situation, to guarantee plurality, independence, freedom of expression, independence judiciary. All this is not something which happens from one day to the other. It's also, and this is why I'm grateful that one of the panels was dealing with education. And to be honest, it doesn't start with the education or training of journalists. It already starts in school with a proper education. And I just met people from a think tank currently based in Thessaloniki, which, with the support of the European Union, have worked, I think, with 80 historians to produce history books for the region or about the region, trying to be objective, to inform about, so to say, the situation, the history of the region, trying to avoid that in each countries of the region there are history books of, so to say, telling a totally different story about one and the same event. Probably the only thing which, so to say, is the same in all the books is the date of the event. But, so to say, the content, the assessment of an event might be very, very different. And if we are not able to overcome all this, and this is why I have spoken yesterday about this still existing ethnic borders, belongings, etc., the societies in these regions won't make progress. And therefore, we need, so to say, a public sphere where people are active, where people are vocal, and of course, media are the core elements of such a public. But I really would like, and maybe this could be a topic for next year's conference, to face a little bit more realism, what can be done on a short, on a medium-term perspective in order to change gradually and to improve the situation in the region. Sometimes I had the feeling you have spoken about an ideal world, may I say almost an utopia, which should be created. But this is not realistic. This is not possible. We have to evolve the situation here in the region. And in a way, we are in a transition period which finally should lead to the full accession to the European Union. And I was spoken yesterday, and not only yesterday, but at all possible occasions, that the enlargement process is about a process and not about negotiations. Not about negotiations of aligning with the acquis communautaire of the European Union. It's about really implementing what is, so to say, what are our values, what is, so to say, our spirit about plurality, respecting individual rights, freedom of expression. Everybody should pursue his own interests, should follow, so to say, his talents, her talents. It's about independence of the judiciary. We have to build confidence of the judiciary here in the region. There is no experience on that. This is not something we have to, which is there automatically. Here in this country we will have a referendum in 13 days, and the big issue is the turnout rate. I think in a mature democracy the turnout rate should not be the issue. The issue should be the result, but not the turnout rate. Because in a mature democracy everybody should be aware and should at least exercise the minimum he or she can contribute to democracy. And that means to cast his or her vote, to participate in it. And this is what counts, where I expect a strong support by the media, to strengthen democracy on a broad basis, to entrench democracy in society. And this also means to depart from this black and white thinking, which I have witnessed today again. The world is fortunately more nuanced than black and white. This is, by the way, one of the challenges, I believe, in a more digital world, that everything is thinking either in yes or no. This is not the society I'm fighting for, and I hope and I'm sure this is shared by you. So we have to work how we can really root in the Balkan societies, like in all other societies around the globe, so to say, the DNA of democracy, which means everybody can stand up, can say his or her opinion without being afraid to be in one or the other way punished, sanctions, or whatsoever. And this is what counts, where I expect your support and our joint effort how to achieve this step by step. And once again, I'm not naive about the political situation in the region, but I have to work with the elected representatives in this country. These are my main interlocutors. Okay, one can say it's up to all of us, and in particular all of you, you are the citizens in this region, to change the situation. And again, we have to think about how to gradually improve the situation and to change what is criticized by you. Corruption is one of the big issues in the region, no doubt about it. And in all the countries we have a proper legislation against the fight of corruption. But it's about implementation. It's about how it is implied, who is brought to court, who is sentenced, what are the consequences, what are the sanctions. And this is exactly what we as European Union, as a Commission, are assessing. The track record in changing the situation. And of course, we cannot enforce one or the other individual case. I think if you take rule of law seriously, you cannot say there's a deadline when a certain case has to be prosecuted, has to be investigated. But be reassured, we are looking at the performance of each country when it comes to prosecute criminal cases, other forms of misusing, etc. And as long as this is not at the level and where we don't feel more guarantees that, so to say, the whole development is leading to an irreversible stage, we are not ready to accept a new member state in the European Union. And this is what I think should be our joint challenge, our joint task, to improve the situation with all our different means. And I give you an example. We have, or you have spoken a lot, and I think I'm grateful that this element is, so to say, part of such a conference, the economic situation of media. I'm pushing a lot to create a regional economic area here in the region, because the current market situation is very fragmented. And this means that a lot of potential is still untapped. And I'm not talking about the immediate economic, so to say, effects. But if there would be a regional economic area of more than 80 million participants, this would have also a different effect on international companies to become active in the region. If, so to say, a lot of rules dealing with doing business are in a way harmonized between the countries. So it becomes more so to say, feasible for international companies and more attractive to become active here in the region. And if you have more international companies, I'm sure that they would have to advertise their products, their goods, their services. And this should contribute to more, so to say, opportunities for media outlets. That should reduce the dependency of one or the other owner being usually close to leading politicians. These are, so to say, some of the correlations which are in a way linked to each other and which we should support for many, many purposes. And of course, another element is, and you discussed it intensively, and I'm grateful for, so to say, improving the conditions for public broadcasters. I'm deeply convinced public broadcasters are the core element of media freedom in a society, provided the working conditions are there, guaranteeing the independent work of the journalists and at the same time safeguarding the national financial support by the public. And we have concepts, we have examples. Something has, by the way, created in Ukraine. You might be surprised. They adopted a law where they defined that a certain percentage, 0.4 of the national GDP, should be provided to the national broadcaster. And they also guaranteed the independence of the journalists. So even the representatives of the broadcaster sector in Ukraine were surprised about, so to say, the magnitude or the, so to say, the generosity, if you like, of this law. The downside of it, after it was adopted, was and is that it was immediately breached by the government itself because they halved the budget, although it was stipulated in the law. So there is a good example, but there is also a bad example. What I simply want to express, there are ideas, there are concepts, and we have a lot of experience, and we are working with governments to implement, to provide such conditions in each country. But public broadcast, and this is something you have to discuss amongst yourselves, they have to, so to say, to expand not only to the traditional, so for instance, TV and radio programs, they also have to include social media activities and things like that, because also here the variety of opportunities has increased. It's about a pragmatic, result-oriented cooperation between you and us in order to improve gradually the situation in each of your countries. And to a certain extent, we have to find tailor-made approaches in order to address the specific deficiencies and shortcomings in the different countries. But what we need, and what I really ask you, is to be realistic in the way what can be achieved within the next couple of months, within the next couple of years, and not to create what Aldous Huxley has said, a brave new world. A brave new world, unfortunately or fortunately, if I think about Huxley, doesn't exist and should not exist, at least in the way he has described it. So I think we are sitting in the same boat. Maybe we have to discuss not really the direction, but what could be the next port which we can, so to say, to which we can navigate in order to replenish our so to say, content. And this is something I really ask you to reflect in the course of next year. So when we will come together, we have not yet decided about the venue, but I would really like to have another event, because then I believe there should be a guarantee that this kind of event will continue, even if I'm not any longer in charge of this dossier. But it's a work which will not be fulfilled within one mandate. It's work in progress, but we all have to be committed. We all know what we would like to have at the end, provided we believe in many different truths, but I assume this is the case here. If this is, so to say, our common understanding, we can achieve a lot. But we have to face reality, we have to be patient, but also passionate in order to achieve our common goal. If this is the case, I am sure that many things are achievable. So thank you once again for joining us for this conference, but I would like not to finish without saying thank you to my team in Brussels, here in Skopje, to many supporters which finally have helped to arrange this. And by the way, I have asked my people, according to our understanding, really everybody has been invited who was invited last year. We even tried to extend the list of people whom we can invite. So don't hesitate to provide us with further addresses of people which we should invite next year. I am an advocate of pluralism, of free speech, and this means everybody has the right and should come and should talk and discuss with us. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Hahn, thank you so much for your commitment, and of course we would hope that you're still around next year in your function, but as we all know, 2019 is again a year of change in the EU. We're going to have a new EU president, we're going to have elections to the parliament, but thank you very much for your and your team's work to put forward the issues at heart. Thank you so much. And I don't want to keep you, because I know that you need to run. The only thing is, ladies and gentlemen, you know that we try to make it interactive. Everybody has the app on their iPhones, and you will actually get an invitation to fill out a feedback form, because, of course, third time round, we want to even make it better than this year, so we would like your input. Please fill out the feedback forms. You'll be reminded on the app. And last but not least, you know, I started yesterday talking about the region where I come from, which is the Rhineland, and said in the third time round it's going to be part of the DNA. Well, that's what's going to happen with the EU Western Balkans Media Days. Thank you very much for having been there. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
I will be there still next year. I will be there still next year, because we will organize it in September. And my office expires by the end of October.
Well, we're happy. Wonderful. Thank you so much.